Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III is an American politician and lawyer who is the 84th Attorney General of the United States. Sessions served as the junior United States Senator from Alabama from 1997 until 2017, and is a member of the Republican Party. From 1981 to 1993, he served as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Alabama. Sessions was nominated in 1986 to be a judge of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Alabama, but his contentious nomination failed. Sessions was elected Attorney General of Alabama in 1994, and to the U.S. Senate in 1996. Being re-elected in 2002, 2008, and 2014. During his time in Congress, Sessions was considered one of the most conservative members of the U.S. Senate. An early supporter of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, Sessions was considered as a possible vice presidential nominee, but Indiana Governor Mike Pence was ultimately selected for the ticket. In November 2016, then-President-elect Donald Trump nominated Sessions for U.S. Attorney General. He was confirmed on February 8, 2017, with a 52-47 vote in the Senate, and was sworn in on February 9. In his Attorney General confirmation hearings, Sessions said that he did not have contact with Russian officials during the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign. In March 2017, news reports revealed that Sessions had twice met with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak in 2016. Sessions subsequently recused himself from any investigations into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, while some Democratic lawmakers called for his resignation. Education and early career. He was born in Selma, Alabama, on December 24, 1946, the son of Jefferson Beauregard Sessions Jr. and the former Abby Poe. He was named after his father, who was named after his grandfather, who was named after Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederate States of America, and P.G.T. Beauregard, the Confederate general who oversaw the bombardment of Fort Sumter, starting the American Civil War. His father owned a general store in Hobart, Alabama, and then a farm equipment dealership. Both of Sessions' parents were of primarily English ancestry, with some Scots-Irish. In 1964, Sessions became an Eagle Scout, and later, he earned the Distinguished Eagle Scout Award for his many years of service. After attending Wilcox County High School in nearby Camden, Sessions studied at Huntingdon College in Montgomery, graduating with a BA degree in 1969. He was active in the Young Republicans and was student body president. Sessions attended the University of Alabama School of Law and graduated with a JD degree in 1973. Sessions entered private practice in Russellville, and later in Mobile. He also served in the Army Reserve in the 1970s with the rank of captain. U.S. Attorney. Sessions was an assistant U.S. attorney in the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Alabama beginning in 1975. In 1981, President Reagan nominated him to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Alabama. The Senate confirmed him and he held the position for 12 years until Bill Clinton's Attorney General, Janet Reno, asked for his resignation. Sessions' office filed civil rights charges in the 1981 killing of Michael Donald, a young African-American man who was murdered in Mobile, Alabama, by a pair of Ku Klux Klan members. Sessions' office did not prosecute the case, but both men were arrested and convicted. In 1985, Sessions prosecuted 3 African-American community organizers in the Black Belt of Alabama. including Martin Luther King Jr.'s former aide Albert Turner, for voter fraud, alleging tampering with 14 absentee ballots. The prosecution stirred charges of selective prosecution of black voter registration. The defendants, known as the Marion Three, were acquitted of all charges by a jury after 3 hours of deliberation. Historian Wayne Flint told The Washington Post he regarded concerns about tactics employed in the 1984 election and by Turner in particular as legitimate, but also noted Sessions had no history of advocating for black voter rights before 1984. Interviewed in 2009, Sessions said he remained convinced that he did the right thing, but admitted he failed to make the case. Failed nomination to the district court. In 1986, Reagan nominated Sessions to be a judge of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Alabama. Sessions' judicial nomination was recommended and actively backed by Republican Alabama Senator Jeremiah Denton. A substantial majority of the American Bar Association Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary, which rates nominees to the federal bench, rated Sessions qualified, with a minority voting that Sessions was not qualified. His nomination was opposed by the NAACP, the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, and People for the American Way. At Sessions' confirmation hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee, 4 Department of Justice lawyers who had worked with Sessions testified that he made racially offensive remarks. One of those lawyers, J. Gerald Hebert, testified that Sessions had referred to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the American Civil Liberties Union as un-American and communist-inspired, and that they did more harm than good by trying to force civil rights down the throats of people. Hebert, a civil rights lawyer, said that he did not consider Sessions a racist, and that Sessions has a tendency sometimes to just say something. And I believe these comments were along that vein. Hebert also said that Sessions had called a white civil rights attorney, maybe a disgrace to his race. Sessions said he did not recall making that remark and he did not believe it. Thomas Figgers, a black assistant U.S. attorney, testified that Sessions said he thought the Ku Klux Klan was okay until I found out they smoked pot. Sessions later said that the comment was not serious but did apologize for it, saying that he considered the Klan to be a force for hatred and bigotry. Barry Kowalski, a prosecutor in the Civil Rights Division, also heard the remark and testified that prosecutors working such a gruesome case sometimes resort to operating room humor, and that is what I considered it to be. Another DOJ lawyer, Albert Glenn, said, "It never occurred to me that there was any seriousness to it." Figgers testified that on one occasion, when the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division sent the office instructions to investigate a case that Sessions had tried to close, Figgers and Sessions had a very spirited discussion regarding how the Hodge case should then be handled. In the course of that argument, Mr. Sessions threw the file on a table, and remarked, "I wish I could decline on all of them," by which Figgers said Sessions meant civil rights cases generally. Kowalski, however, testified that he believed Sessions was eager to see that justice was done in the area of criminal civil rights prosecutions. Figgers also said that Sessions had called him boy, which Sessions denied. Figgers testified that 2 assistant prosecutors had also heard Sessions, including current federal judge Ginny Grenade. Grenade denied this. He also testified that, "Mr. Sessions admonished me to be careful what you say to white folks." Sessions denied this. In 1992, Figgers was charged with attempting to bribe a witness by offering $50,000 to a convicted drug dealer who was to testify against his client. Figgers claimed the charge was retaliation for his role in blocking the Sessions nomination. Sessions denied this, saying that he recused himself from the case. Figgers was ultimately acquitted. Hebert, Kowalski and Daniel Bell, deputy chief of the criminal section in the Civil Rights Division, testified that they considered Sessions to have been more welcoming to the work of the Civil Rights Division than many other Southern U.S. attorneys at the time. Sessions has always defended his civil rights record, saying that, "When I was a U.S. attorney, I signed 10 pleadings attacking segregation or the remnants of segregation, where we as part of the Department of Justice, we sought desegregation remedies." Critics later argued that Sessions had exaggerated his involvement in civil rights cases. Michigan law professor Samuel Bagenstos, reviewing Sessions' claims, argued that, "All this shows is that Sessions didn't completely refuse to participate in or have his name on pleadings in cases that the Civil Rights Division brought during his tenure." These 4 cases are awfully weak evidence of Sessions' supposed commitment to civil rights. Coretta Scott King, the widow of Martin Luther King Jr., wrote to the Senate Judiciary Committee to oppose the nomination. In her letter, she wrote that, "Mr. Sessions has used the awesome powers of his office in a shabby attempt to intimidate and frighten elderly black voters." On June 5, 1986, the committee voted 10-8 against recommending the nomination to the Senate floor, with Republican Senators Charles Mathias of Maryland and Al Inspector of Pennsylvania voting with the Democrats. It then split 9-9 on a vote to send Sessions' nomination to the Senate floor, with no recommendation, this time with Specter in support. A majority was required for the nomination to proceed. The pivotal votes against Sessions came from his home state's Democratic Senator Howell Heflin of Alabama. Although Heflin had previously backed Sessions, he began to oppose Sessions after hearing testimony, concluding that there were reasonable doubts over Sessions' ability to be fair and impartial. The nomination was withdrawn on July 31, 1986. Sessions became only the second nominee to the federal judiciary in 48 years whose nomination was killed by the Senate Judiciary Committee. He was quoted then as saying that the Senate on occasion had been insensitive to the rights and reputation of nominees. A law clerk from the U.S. District Court in Mobile who had worked with Sessions later acknowledged the confirmation controversy, but stated that he observed Sessions as a lawyer of the highest ethical and intellectual standards. When Senator Al Inspector of Pennsylvania left the GOP to join the Democratic Party on April 28, 2009, Sessions was selected to be the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee. At the time, Specter said that his vote against Sessions' nomination was a mistake, because he had since found that Sessions is egalitarian. Alabama Attorney General meet with President George W. Bush. 2004 Sessions was elected Attorney General of Alabama in November 1994, unseating incumbent Democrat Jimmy Evans with 57% of the vote. The harsh criticism he had received from Senator Edward Kennedy, who called him a throwback to a shameful era and a disgrace, was considered to have won him the support of Alabama conservatives. As Attorney General, Sessions led the state's defense of a school funding model which was ultimately found to be unconstitutional, because of disparities between rich, mostly white, and poor, mostly black, schools. U.S. Senate In 1996, Sessions won the Republican primary for U.S. Senate, after a runoff, and then defeated Democrat Roger Bedford 53% to 46% in the November general election. He succeeded Howell Heflin, who had retired after 18 years in the Senate. That same year, the Gay-Lesbian-Bisexual Alliance sued the state of Alabama after the Alabama legislature attempted to deny funding to student organizations that advocated on behalf of homosexuality at public universities. As Attorney General of Alabama, Sessions defended the state, arguing that funding should not be provided to student groups that advocated unlawful behavior, including the breaking of sodomy and sexual misconduct laws. Sessions also argued that the state of Alabama will experience irreparable harm by funding a conference and activities in violation of state law. A U.S. District Court ultimately ruled the law unconstitutional in Gay-Lesbian-Bisexual Alliance v. Sessions, 917 F. Sup. 1548. Talk to Sailors, Nas Sigonella, Italy, 2004. In 2002, Sessions won re-election by defeating Democratic State Auditor Susan Parker. In 2008, Sessions defeated Democratic State Senator Vivian Davis Figures to win a third term. Sessions received 63% of the vote to Figures 37%. Sessions successfully sought a fourth term in 2014, and was uncontested in both the Republican primary and the general election. Sessions was only the second freshman Republican senator from Alabama since Reconstruction, and gave Alabama 2 Republican senators, a first since Reconstruction. He was easily re-elected in 2002, becoming the first Republican re-elected to the Senate from Alabama since Reconstruction. Sessions was the ranking Republican member on the Senate Budget Committee, a former ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. He also served on the Environment and Public Works Committee. Campaign donors. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, between 1995 and 2016, Sessions' largest donors came from the legal, retired, health, real estate, and insurance industries. From 1995 to 2016, the corporations employing donors who gave the most to his campaign were the Southern Company, utility firm of Balch and Bingham, law firm of Drummond Company, coal mining firm, Colazo Enterprises, and Vulcan Materials. 2016 presidential election. On January 20, 2017, Sessions was an early supporter of the presidential candidacy of Donald Trump, and was a major policy advisor to the Trump campaign, especially in regard to immigration and national security. Sessions donned a "Make America Great Again" cap at a Trump rally in August 2015, and Stephen Miller, Sessions' longtime communications director, joined the Trump campaign. On February 28, 2016, Sessions officially endorsed Donald Trump for president. Sessions and Rudy Giuliani's appearance was a staple at Trump campaign rallies. The Trump campaign considered Sessions for the position of running mate, and Sessions was widely seen as a potential cabinet secretary in a Trump administration. Transition. During the transition, Sessions played a large role in appointments and policy preparation relative to space, NASA and related facilities in Alabama, while Peter Thiel advocated for private spaceflight. Nomination. President-elect Trump announced on November 18, 2016, that he would nominate Sessions to be Attorney General of the United States. The nomination engendered support and opposition from various groups and individuals. He was introduced by Senator Susan Collins from Maine, who said, "He's a decent individual with a strong commitment to the rule of law. He's a leader of integrity. I think the attacks against him are not well-founded and are unfair." More than 1,400 law school professors wrote a letter urging the Senate to reject the nomination. A group of black pastors rallied in support of Sessions in advance of his confirmation hearing, and his nomination was supported by Gerald D. Reynolds, an African-American former chairman of the United States Commission on Civil Rights. 6 NAACP activists, including NAACP President Cornell William Brooks, were arrested at a January 2017 sit-in protesting the nomination. On January 10, 2017, the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings on his nomination began and were interrupted by protesters. The committee approved his nomination February 1 on an 11-9 party line vote. The nomination then went to the full Senate for a confirmation vote. The vote on Sessions was delayed until after the vote on Secretary of Education nominee Betsy DeVos, because his confirmation and subsequent resignation from the Senate would create a temporary vacancy, which otherwise would have jeopardized DeVos' narrow confirmation. On February 7, 2017, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stopped Senator Elizabeth Warren from reading statements opposing Sessions' nomination as federal judge that had been made by Ted Kennedy and Coretta Scott King. Warren was then officially rebuked per Senate Rule 19 on a party line vote for impugning a fellow senator's character. A few hours later, Senator Jeff Merkley read without interruption the same letter by King that Warren had attempted to read. On February 8, he was confirmed as Attorney General by a vote of 52 to 47. Tenure. On March 10, 2017, Sessions oversaw the firing of 46 United States attorneys, leaving only his acting deputy Dana Boente and nominated Deputy Rod Rosenstein in place after Trump declined their resignations. On April 10, 2017, Sessions disbanded the National Commission on Forensic Science and ended the department's review of the forensic accuracy in closed cases. Sessions imposed a hiring freeze on most of the United States Department of Justice Criminal Division and U.S. Attorney's offices, and a total freeze on the department's fraud section. On April 24, 2017, Sessions traveled to an ethics lawyers' conference to assure them the department would continue prosecutions under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, regardless of President Trump's comments that it is a horrible law and the world is laughing at us. On May 9, 2017, Sessions delivered a memo to the president recommending Trump fire FBI Director James Comey, attaching a memo by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein which called the director's behavior indefensible. Trump fired Comey that day. In March 2017, Sessions had recused himself from investigations into Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. Comey was leading the investigations prior to his dismissal. Russia controversy and recusal. During Sessions' Judiciary Committee confirmation hearing on January 10, Senator Al Franken asked him what he would do as Attorney General if there is any evidence that
anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated
with the Russian government in the course of this campaign. Franken was referring to a news report alleging that Russia had compromising material on Trump, and Trump surrogates were in contact with the Russian government. Sessions replied that he was not aware of any of those activities.
and said, "I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign.
And I did not have communications with the Russians. And I'm unable to comment on it." In his January 17 responses to written questions presented by Senator Patrick Leahy, Sessions stated that he had not been in contact with anyone connected to any part of the Russian government about the 2016 election. On March 1, 2017, Sessions came under scrutiny after reports surfaced that he had contact with Russian government officials during the 2016 U.S. presidential election, even though during his confirmation hearings he denied he had any discussions with representatives of the Russian government. News reports revealed that Sessions had spoken twice with Russia's ambassador to the United States, Sergei Kislyak. The first communication took place after a Heritage Foundation event at the 2016 Republican National Convention attended by several ambassadors, including the Russian ambassador Kislyak, who spoke with Senator Sessions. The second interaction took place on September 8, 2016, when they met in Sessions' office. Sessions said they discussed Ukraine and terrorism. Sessions released a statement that day, saying, "I never met with any Russian officials to discuss issues of the campaign. I have no idea what this allegation is about. It is false." U.S. Justice Department spokeswoman Sarah Isgor-Flores said, "There was absolutely nothing misleading about his answer." He was asked during the hearing about communications between Russia and the Trump campaign, not about meetings he took as a senator and a member of the Armed Services Committee. Last year, the senator had over 25 conversations with foreign ambassadors as a senior member of the Armed Services Committee, including the British, Korean, Japanese, Polish, Indian, Chinese, Canadian, Australian, German, and Russian ambassadors. Democratic representatives asked Sessions to resign his post as United States Attorney General. Senator Lindsey Graham called for Sessions to recuse himself from any investigations into the connections between Russia and the Trump campaign. Representative Nancy Pelosi stated that Sessions had lied under oath and called for his resignation. Representative Elijah Cummings said that, when Senator Sessions testified under oath that, "I did not have communications with the Russians," his statement was demonstrably false. Yet he let it stand for weeks. And he continued to let it stand even as he watched the president tell the entire nation he didn't know anything about anyone advising his campaign talking to the Russians. Cummings also called for Sessions' resignation. Senator Franken commented that he believes that Sessions perjured himself in his confirmation hearing. On March 2, Sessions announced that he would recuse himself from any investigations into Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. That same day, The Wall Street Journal reported that Sessions' contact with the Russians had been investigated. It was not clear whether the investigation was ongoing. A poll conducted by Quinnipiac University in the first week of March 2017 found that 51% of respondents wanted Sessions to resign. The same poll also found that 66% of respondents wanted an independent investigation into the connections between Donald Trump's campaign and the Russian government. On March 20, 2017, FBI Director James Comey testified in front of the House Intelligence Committee that, since July 2016, the FBI has been conducting a counterintelligence investigation to assess the extent of Russia's interference into the 2016 presidential election, and whether Trump associates played a role in Russia's efforts. In May 2017, the Justice Department reported that Sessions had failed to disclose meetings with Russian officials during the presidential campaign in 2016, when he applied for his security clearance. According to Department of Justice spokesman Ian Pryor, his staff consulted with those familiar with the process, as well as the FBI investigator handling the background check, and was instructed not to list meetings with foreign dignitaries and their staff connected with his Senate activities. On June 8, 2017, now ex-FBI Director James Comey testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee that he expected Sessions to recuse himself from the Russia investigation 2 weeks before he did, for classified reasons that made his continued engagement in the investigation problematic. It had been reported days before said testimony that President Trump had been furious at Sessions for his recusal from the investigation, blaming it for the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel. On June 13, 2017, Sessions testified before the House Intelligence Committee after canceling testimonies before the House and Senate Committees on Appropriations. Accused of stonewalling by Senator Ron Wyden, Sessions discussed the doctrine of executive privilege and said that he was refusing to answer questions about his conversations with Trump in order to protect the president's right to assert executive privilege if he chooses. Criminal justice. On April 3, 2017, Sessions announced that he was going to review consent decrees in which local law enforcement agencies had agreed to department oversight. U.S. District Judge James K. Breder then denied Sessions' request to delay a new consent decree with the Baltimore Police Department. On May 12, 2017, Sessions ordered federal prosecutors to begin seeking the greatest criminal charges possible. The new guidelines rescinded a memo by Attorney General Eric Holder that had sought to reduce mass incarceration by avoiding mandatory sentencing. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.